Happiest Day is one of the most important pieces of the FNAF lore, since it's the ending to the story in a way. Originally introduced back in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 as the good ending to that game's story, where the spirits haunting the animatronics were finally given one final birthday celebration, before passing on into whatever comes afterwards. A bittersweet ending to a tragic story about the loss of innocence. Now, a lot has changed about what we thought Happiest Day was back in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Since over the past 10 years, we've gotten a ton of new information that recontextualizes this moment, and even its placement on the timeline. And today, that's what we're going to be talking about. So grab your party hats and your slices of cake, as we dive into the pit and discover the truth behind Happiest Day. So despite what most people believe, the first new information we got about Happiest Day was actually several months after Five Nights at Freddy's 3, with the release of the first book ever in the series, The Silver Eyes. This book was a reimagining of the FNAF story that was its own timeline, but it also did contain many story elements from the games, something that would become more prominent with the release of Sister Location and Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. But one passage of this book that always interested me was the scene where William Afton talks to the main characters about the animatronics, where he describes the children's spirits as being in their happiest day. "My dad trusted you," Charlie said. She was on her knees now, looking intently at the rabbit's face. "What did you do to him?" Her voice broke. "I helped him create." The voice came from inside the mask, but it was not Dave's, not the pitiful, sour tone they would have recognized. "We both wanted to love. Your father loved, and now I have loved." "You killed," Carlton said, but then burst out with something that sounded like laughter. "And you've created monsters. The kids you killed are still here. You've imprisoned them." Dave's voice was coarse, and the large mascot head slid forward and tilted as he spoke. "Their happiest day." "How do we get out?" Charlie placed one hand on the mascot's head and pushed it back into position on Dave's shoulders. "There isn't a way out anymore. All that's left is family." "Well, then you're trapped here too, and you're not going to be hurting anyone else." "I don't have to," Dave answered. "When it gets dark, they will awaken. The children's spirits will rise. They will kill you. I'll just walk out in the morning, stepping over your corpses one by one." "They'll kill you too," Jessica said. "No, I'm quite confident that I'll survive." "Really?" John said suddenly. "I'm pretty sure they're the spirits of the kids you killed." He all but spat. "Why would they hurt us? It's you they're after." "They don't remember," Dave said. "They've forgotten. The dead do forget. All they know is that you're here, trying to take away their happiest day. You are intruders." His voice lowered to a hush. "You are grown-ups." "We're not," Jessica began. "You're close enough, especially to a vengeful, confused, and frightened child. None of you will survive the night." "What makes you think they won't kill you?" "Because I am one of them," he said. So in this passage, Afton's way of describing the children's spirits being trapped inside the animatronics as their happiest day. So right here, we are being given another definition of a happiest day. This establishes that there are two existing versions of a happiest day. The one we see in FNAF 3, where the children's spirits leave and are put to rest from their animatronic prisons and move on. Then there's Afton's version of a happiest day, which is what we see across these games. The children's spirits lashing out at intruders and grown-ups, trapped inside those machines. This concept returns later in the third novel, The Fourth Closet, where Afton manipulates the souls of the missing children and uses their remnant to control the Funtime animatronics. While being under this trance, the spirits of the children don't see Afton as their killer. Instead, they see him once again as Spring Bonnie, and believe that he is their friend. This only stops when Carlton is able to put their memories back together, which is a drawing that appears earlier in the book, depicting the 5 missing children with the yellow rabbit as their friend. He then takes this drawing, which represents the memory, and changes it, and reveals to them the truth, that Spring Bonnie isn't really their friend, and is actually Afton. This concept would later appear again in another retelling of the FNAF story, the FNAF movie, where Vanessa explains to Mike that Afton uses the drawings in the pizzeria to manipulate the spirits into remembering him as their friend and not their killer. As long as Afton is wearing the yellow suit, the animatronics won't harm him, just like in the Silver Eyes, where the animatronics don't attack William once he has the suit on. Just like what Carlton does in the books, the FNAF movie has Abby changing the drawing of the yellow rabbit being friends with the children and showing them that he is really their killer, The animatronics then turn on him and he gets spring-locked. You know the rest of the story. So this concept of a false happiest day has been shown across various books and movies, where Afton manipulates the missing children by using the image of a yellow rabbit to get them to listen to him. And it all has to do with the spirit's memories. Memories also play a major role in the real version of Happiest Day we see in FNAF 3. A version of Happiest Day that allows the spirits to be free instead of keeping them imprisoned. This concept was explained in depth in the Fazbear Frights novella series. In this series, we had the Stitch Wraith, who was possessed by a spirit named Jake, and in this series, Jake had the interesting ability to see into and change people's memories. He does this when he finds a homeless man on the side of the road and sees how much pain and suffering he has endured. Jake ends up using his powers to make the homeless man relive a happy memory instead of a sad one. Well, where this ability really comes into play is during the ending of the Stitch Wraith stingers. Jake finds the ball pit inside of Jeff's pizza, which contains the agony, memories, and trapped souls of the victims of Eleanor and William Afton. When he enters the ball pit, he uses his abilities to alter the memories of the trapped spirits inside the ball pit, turning the memories of their deaths into happy memories, which helps the spirits find peace and rest. For example, in the story Count the Ways, a teenage girl named Millie is killed inside Funtime Freddy, and Jake uses his abilities to alter the memory of her death, instead giving her a memory of getting to celebrate Christmas with her family. This is exactly what we see happen in Happiest Day, where the puppet gives the spirits of the children an altered memory, where they are celebrating a birthday party they never had, and it allows them to find peace. But is there anything else we know about Happiest Day from the games universe? Actually, we do. In the survival logbook, we can find a page inside the book where it asks the reader to reflect on their happiest day, and tells them to write about one specific memory that made them feel better when facing difficulties, or as Mike writes, certain death. This is once again telling us to connect happiest days to the concept of memories being used to make someone feel better in the face of death, such as altering the memory of a murdered spirit into something that makes them feel better. On the same page below, we can see artwork of the puppet giving a child cake, once again referencing the scenario of puppet giving the child cake in FNAF 3. But something else I don't see other people talk about is what appears on the very next page after this. On the next 2 pages, we are given a page which contains in-universe coupons for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And one of these coupons in particular is a coupon for a Happiest Day party, meaning that Happiest Day parties are a real event in the FNAF universe. But let's take a closer look at what's included in a Happiest Day party. For a Happiest Day party, you can receive a reserved party room, a 3-tier birthday cake, a free gift from the puppet, and a custom party kit with hats and invitations. The contents of this coupon are crucial for this theory, so I want to go over each of them and explain their importance when it comes to Happiest Day in FNAF 3. So let's quickly go over the 3-tier birthday cake. This one is the most obvious. In FNAF 3, we see the puppet giving this 3-tier birthday cake that's described in the coupon to the Golden Freddy spirit. But here's where we run into our first major discussion of the video, receiving a free gift from the puppet. So I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent about another topic of this series that has sparked a lot of debate over the past few years. Who was the one who stuffed the bodies of the missing children into the animatronic suits? The puppet or William Afton? So majority of the arguments that the puppet was the one to stuff the children comes from the FNAF 2 minigame Gives Gifts Give Life, where the puppet is shown to be going around to all the children and placing masks on their heads of the animatronic characters, which is what the game calls giving life, with a voice in the background spelling out the words, "help them." So at first glance, many people think this minigame is depicting the puppet putting the children into the animatronic suits. But I think that with the information we have now, this version of events just doesn't make sense at all. First, let's talk about the puppet as a character. We learn a lot about the puppet's character during Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night, through how Henry describes her and how she talks about herself in her own voice lines. Henry describes the puppet as somebody whose inherent nature is to protect the innocent and lift others into her arms.
My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms the way you lifted others into yours.
This description of her personality matches very well with what we see in FNAF 3, with her being the one to give the cake to the missing children during Happiest Day and helping them rest their souls. This would also make sense, since the animatronic that Henry's daughter possesses, the security puppet, is an animatronic that is specifically designed to keep children safe, like we see in the security puppet minigame. the animatronic Charlie ends up possessing matches her protective nature. So it's interesting that during Henry's speech in FNAF 6, when he's describing the puppet as carrying the missing children in her arms, like a benevolent protector, "Give gifts, give life" is being shown on the screen, which implies that this scene from that minigame is meant to be seen as a display of the puppet's good nature, which is backed up by the voice in the minigame insisting she helped them. I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but if "Give gifts, give life" was meant to be showing the puppet stuffing the missing children into the animatronics and causing them to possess the robots, this does not match the puppet's personality at all. It's been established over and over and over again in the series that the spirits being trapped inside the animatronics and possessing them is not a good thing. They are shown to be constantly crying and in terrible pain and agony. So that means that if the puppet is the one responsible for stuffing the missing children into the animatronics and causing them to become possessed, she is, willingly, subjecting them to decades of suffering and restlessness, which doesn't match with the character at all. The puppet wouldn't do that based on everything we know about her character. She even talks about how protective she is over the other animatronics in UCN.
The others are under my protection.
Not only that, but remember, the reason the police never found the bodies of the missing children is because they were stuffed into the animatronic suits. So if the puppet was the one responsible for stuffing the children into the suits, she basically hid William Afton's murder evidence for him. Yeah, thanks a lot, Charlie. None of this makes any sense for the puppet to do. She wouldn't do something that causes the missing children years of torture and suffering, and essentially helping William get away with murder. Now, I'm sure many of you might try to make some counter-arguments to explain why Charlie might have stuffed the missing children into the suits. Point 1. She made them possess the animatronics so they could get revenge on Afton. This argument just doesn't make sense to me for a few reasons. 1. Getting revenge on William Afton would not benefit the missing children. One of the big themes of Five Nights at Freddy's is that revenge only causes more suffering. In fact, that's the entire story of Ultimate Custom Night. The vengeful spirit is literally hell-bent on getting revenge on William Afton, so they trap him in an endless cycle of torture, but this revenge ultimately leads to them not being able to rest their own soul and find peace, because they're consumed by revenge. This is why Old Man Consequences tells the spirit to leave the demon to his demons and to rest their own soul. They need to stop holding on to this revenge in order to pass on and be relieved of their suffering. And if you drown yourself in the Red Lake, which we are shown in FNAF World leads someone to their happiest day, the game closes. The vengeful spirit has stopped tormenting Afton and chosen to move on. The game closes because it's over. We also have FNAF 3, where the souls of the missing children end up backing Afton into a corner and causing him to put on the spring bodysuit, which kills him, at least for a little while. But once again, this revenge of killing William Afton doesn't solve anything. We see years later Afton is now Springtrap and the children's spirits are still restless despite the fact that their killer was destroyed. They can only find peace after they experience Happiest Day. Revenge doesn't solve anything. This also just wouldn't make sense for the puppet to do, since it's implied she doesn't ultimately care about revenge, since one of her voice lines in UCN has her tell Afton,
I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way.
Revenge isn't that important to her. Protecting the other children is what matters to the puppet. The second counterpoint I hear people say for why the puppet might have stuffed the children into the animatronics is because she didn't realize she would be causing them pain. But this argument is also faulty because she directly states in one of her voice lines in Ultimate Custom Night,
The others are like animals, but I am very aware.
The puppet knows what she's doing. She's not confused and frightened like the other kids. She has a heightened awareness that others lack. This is something Phone Guy even points out during FNAF 2.
I'll be honest, I never liked that puppet thing. It's always thinking, and it can go anywhere. I don't think the Freddy mask will fool it, so just don't forget the music box.
Not to mention, if you believe that Charlie possessed her animatronic before any of the other spirits, then she would know how terrible and painful it is to possess an animatronic and stay in the real world, which would definitely not be something she would want to subject the other children to, if she really cares for them like she says. Not only does the puppet stuffing the missing children into the animatronics not make any sense for her to do, but it only actually makes sense if you think the minigames in FNAF 2 are extremely literal. But that's the issue. They're not. I'll give you some examples. In the minigame in FNAF 2 called Foxy Go Go Go, we play as Foxy, leaving Pirate's Cove and rushing into a showroom to meet 5 children. He does this over and over and over until the purple guy appears. Then he enters the showroom and all the children are dead and the minigame ends. The events we see in Foxy Go 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 cannot literally happen as they're being shown. It's heavily implied in FNAF 3 that William Afton lured the missing children into the safe room in order to kill them. That room not only being where they keep the Spring Bonnie suit, but it's also a completely soundproof room and is off camera. And it's not included in the layout of the building. But we are also told that the animatronics specifically cannot enter this room.
Every location is built with one extra room that is not included in the digital map layouts programmed into the animatronics or security system. This room is hidden to customers, invisible to animatronics, and is always off camera.
We see them unable to enter this room during Follow Me. So Foxy couldn't possibly see the dead bodies of the missing children incident like how it's shown in Foxy Go Go Go. It's impossible for this event to literally happen. Or how about Take Cake to the Children, which shows Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as a single small room with one animatronic, that being Freddy. Obviously, that's not accurate to how the pizzeria looks either, and we are later shown in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator that the puppet was actually in the same room with Freddy. The same thing goes for Give Gifts, Give Life. It's not literally showing the puppet turning the kids into the animatronics. There are a multitude of reasons as to why this isn't the puppet literally stuffing the dead bodies into the suits. First of all, she isn't shown stuffing the children into the animatronics, she just places the masks over their heads. If Scott was trying to communicate that this was the puppet literally stuffing the kids into the suits, the kids would have just turned into full body sprites of the animatronics, not just having the mask placed over their heads. That's the weirdest way to get that point across if that's what Scott's intention was. Just have them be replaced by the actual animatronics. Scott has full body sprites of the animatronics too, so he could have easily done this if that was his intention. All of this leads to the most obvious answer that William Afton was the one who stuffed the kids into the animatronic suits. And this idea is something that Scott Cawthon has been forcing down our throats over and over and over again for years. After all, in the Silver Eyes we are told that Afton is the one that stuffed the children into the animatronics. Now a lot of people have said that the reason for that is because in the case of the Silver Eyes, the puppet doesn't exist in that version of the universe, which is a fair counter-argument, since it's correct that the puppet doesn't exist in the Silver Eyes universe. But in the FNAF movie universe, we are once again shown and told that William Afton was the one who stuffed the bodies of the missing children into the animatronics in order to hide them, something that we are told by Vanessa, and something that Afton admits to himself.
The parents would cry and the police would come looking, and he knew there's one place they'd never think to check because... Why would they? And why would anyone? It's not just their ghosts that are inside of those machines. It's their bodies. You have to understand that the kids, they don't want to hurt anyone. It's him. He influences them somehow. He took everything from them, but they don't remember.
Look at you. Look at the nasty things that you have become. Look how small you are, how worthless you are. You are wretched, rotten little beast. I made you.
But here's the thing. In the movie universe, William Afton is still the one responsible for stuffing the kids into the animatronics. But the puppet is also confirmed to exist in the movie universe. So now we have a universe where William Afton is still the one to stuff the kids, and not the puppet, despite them coexisting in the same universe. So the Silver Eyes counter-argument doesn't really work anymore. There is also the Into the Pit video game, which is based on the Fazbear Frights universe. On night 1, the Yellow Rabbit stuffs a child into an animatronic suit. In the Fazbear Frights, the Yellow Rabbit is a creature that was created from the agony caused by William Afton causing the missing children's incident. And it behaves like William did. So if its behavior involves stuffing a child into an animatronic, that means William must have also stuffed the kids in this universe as well. Not only that, but the puppet also exists in the Fazbear Frights universe. In fact, she plays a major role in the Stitch Wraith story. So that's another universe where William is implied to have stuffed the kids, and the puppet also exists at the same time. Finally, we also have Pizza Party and Help Wanted, which shows Glitchtrap, who is meant to represent William Afton in this minigame, luring us into a back room, and we wake up inside of Freddy Fazbear. This isn't exactly how the missing children's incident played out, but the implication is still there. William is the one being attributed to stuffing us inside the suit. Now, some people might say, Well, the screen blacks out, so that means the puppet could have done it. But recently, we got a confirmation that that was false, thanks to Secret of the Mimic. In the bad ending to Secret of the Mimic, Arnold gets caught by the Mimic, and we wake up stuffed inside a Freddy suit, while performing on stage while the credits roll. The Mimic is seen watching us in the audience. This entire scene is a direct mirror to the Pizza Party ending in Help Wanted, the only difference being that it's M2 instead of Glitch Trap. But if M2 is the one that shoved us into the animatronic suit in that ending, and these two endings mirror each other, that would mean that Glitch Trap has to have been the one to stuff us into the Freddy suit. We don't see M2 physically stuff Arnold into the suit, but it's obvious that he's the one responsible. Same thing with Glitch Trap. So that's why I'm so confident that without a shadow of a doubt, William Afton was the one to stuff the children into the animatronic suits. But why is all that so important? Well, because if Afton was the one to stuff the kids into the animatronic suits, then that leaves the question open of what Give Gifts Give Life is actually showing us. Well, to put it simply, I think Give Gifts Give Life is showing the puppet attempting to give missing children their happiest day. Remember that in Happiest Day, all of the spirits of the children wear masks of the animatronics. In Give Gifts Give Life, what we are seeing is that those masks are being put onto them. The only one who doesn't get a mask is Golden Freddy. And we know that Golden Freddy is required for Happiest Day of work, like we see in FNAF 3. The spirits don't move on until Golden Freddy gets his mask and stops crying. Not only that, but remember that the Happiest Day coupon in the logbook, we are told that part of Happiest Day is receiving a free gift from the puppet. This is exactly what's happening in Give Gifts Give Life. The puppet is giving free gifts to the missing children, which are the Happiest Day masks. But then you might ask, if this is meant to be the puppet attempting Happiest Day, why doesn't it work? Well, because it's incomplete. Since, remember, another part of Happiest Day is that the children also receive a 3-tier birthday cake. They only get the gifts in FNAF 2, but they don't receive their cakes until FNAF 3. All these mini-games leading up to Happiest Day are giving each of the children a cake, before we give the Golden Freddy spirit his mask, his free gift, and his cake. The party is now complete, and the children can finally rest. Give Gifts Give Life being an attempt at Happiest Day would also explain why we are told to help them in the minigames. We are helping set up Happiest Day for the children to move on, but it's incomplete. Now, of course, there is the glaring issue of, if this is meant to be an attempt at Happiest Day by the puppet, and not the puppet causing the children to possess the animatronics, why is it called Give Gifts Give Life? Since that seems to imply that the puppet is giving life to the children somehow, which most people would rightly assume means giving them life inside the animatronics. But to me, that just doesn't really make sense based on everything we know. Here's what I mean. Why would the puppet need to help the children's spirits possess the animatronics? Everywhere else in the series, spirits can just possess animatronics all by themselves without any help. For example, the crying child ends up possessing Fredbear despite him seemingly dying in a hospital. Elizabeth gets scooped by Baby and possesses her all by herself. Heck, even Charlie herself didn't receive any help possessing the puppet. She just did it. So why would the missing children be any different? And here's where I offer the alternate solution. The meaning of the words give life isn't about the children possessing the animatronics, it's about giving them their happiest day. Well, if you remember earlier in the video, I talked about how happiest days work, which involves taking a bad memory of a spirit's death and changing it, turning it into a happy memory where they continue to live. You are effectively giving them the life they lost. So the puppet trying to give the missing children their happiest day would be her attempting to give them life, the life they lost after they were murdered, allowing them to live in a memory where they enjoyed the birthday party with cake and gifts before being able to move on. What about the other contents of Happiest Day? This event comes also with a reserved party room and a custom party kit with invitations and hats. In order to find where these parts of the event are used, we have to turn our attention to one of the Fazbear Fright stories, Into the Pit, specifically the video game adaptation and the interactive novel, Return to the Pit. So, in the story Into the Pit, Oswald travels back in time to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza during June 1995, the day which the missing children's incident takes place. While in the past, Oswald stumbles upon the Yellow Rabbit who has killed the missing children in the back room. We all know the story. But the setup of this event is what is really relevant to this theory. When walking around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, you can find a note that advertises a reservation for a party room that hosts private events, which includes a free Freddy Fazbear cake. This private party room is the room in which we find the dead bodies of the victims of the Yellow Rabbit. And what are they wearing? Party hats. It gets more interesting when we look at Return to the Pit, which has Oswald finding the missing children in a back room. He witnesses the Yellow Rabbit bringing them into the room and placing party hats on top of their heads. Strangely, these kids all seem to be in some kind of trance-like state, almost like zombies, when they have the hats on, and Oswald has to remove the party hats in order to break them out of it, implying that the Yellow Rabbit is able to control them somehow with these party hats. Oswald then has to get the good ending by sitting all the children down at a table and giving them all slices of party cake. This triggers an ending in the book where the Yellow Rabbit dies and the children are saved. Do you see where I'm going with all of this? The private party room, the party hats, the cake, the 5 children receiving the cake. It's a Happiest Day event, but it's also a false one, being used to manipulate the missing children and keep them trapped, just like what we see William doing in the other books and in the movie. Oswald giving the children the cake and the real Happiest Day party changes the memory of them being killed by William Afton and allows them to live. This gives credence to the idea that Give Gifts, Give Life was an attempt at Happiest Day. Quickly, let's go back to the Yellow Rabbit's role in Into the Pit, since it seems like it's heavily pointing towards the idea that, similar to the FNAF movie, William Afton, as the Yellow Rabbit, is using a version of the Happiest Day party to keep the children trapped. This is also backed up by one of the minigames in Into the Pit, which is Collect the Hats. We play as a balloon boy, and we have to go around and collect 5 party hats, the same ones the missing children are wearing earlier in the game. But if we go out of bounds, we can find a long room with several party tables with slices of cake on them, and tons of balloons, just like what's described in Return to the Pit, with the Happiest Day celebration, and the Happiest Day minigame in FNAF 3. The balloon boy we play as in this minigame even looks exactly like the one we play as during BB's air adventure in FNAF 3, the minigame which is also connected to Happiest Day. When we go far enough out of bounds, we can find William Afton himself holding a party hat by a string. William being shown holding his party hat by a string, along with what we are shown in Return to the Pit, I think shows that William Afton is indeed using a Happiest Day party, which is represented by these party hats as a way of trapping his victims. There's actually a surprising amount of parallels between the story of Into the Pit and the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, specifically with the characters of Oswald and Abby. In the movie, we are shown that early on, Abby seems to already have some type of connection to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, since she is shown drawing the missing children before she ever even goes to Freddy's and meets them. The same thing happens with Oswald at the beginning of Into the Pit. He is shown drawing the animatronics from Freddy's before he ever even goes back in time. At the end of the movie, Abby uses the drawings at Freddy's to show the spirits of the missing children that their memory of the Yellow Rabbit being their friend is a false one, which leads to his demise. Into the Pit was a game with a tremendous amount of cut content, rivaling that of even Security Breach. But one of the most interesting pieces of cut content were these drawings, which are extremely similar to the drawing Abby used to kill William Afton in the movie. I can't help but wonder that, at some point in Into the Pit's development, if there was going to be an ending where, similar to the movie, Oswald was going to draw this picture of the Yellow Rabbit killing the children, which would have caused the Yellow Rabbit to be destroyed. Now, obviously it's cut content and it isn't canon, but it still makes me think that this route was something they thought of while going in. Either way, I think all this evidence is pretty solid. But now we have to ask, have we seen anything like this in the mainline games? Going back to Pizza Party from Help Wanted, we are lured into the back room by Glitchtrap, who represents Afton, and we find a birthday celebration set up for the child we are playing as. And all around us are the animatronic characters, except for Freddy. But near each of the animatronics, one item is found in particular: party hats. There's one placed on top of Chica's head, another right next to Bonnie on his workbench, and there's one right next to Foxy's head as well. All of these animatronics here are representing the other missing children, and just like we see in Into the Pit, the party hats are being used as symbolism of Afton killing and trapping the children. But now we have to wonder, if Afton was really keeping the missing children trapped in a similar method to how it's shown in the books and the movies, how does this change the way we look at the previous games? Well, we see Afton interact with the animatronics a few times in the minigames, both in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's 3. But something worth noting is that each time, Afton is not in control of the animatronics because he's not wearing the Yellow Rabbit suit. Without it, the animatronics are just as hostile to him. Have you ever wondered why William thought hiding in the Spring Bonnie suit might somehow protect him during FNAF 3? Why does he seem so confident when he puts it on? Well, it could be because, like how in the film and books show us, when he's wearing the suit, he has some sort of power over the other spirits. If you believe in the theory Molten MCI, the theory that the remnant of the original animatronics was used to cause the Fun Times to become possessed, then remember that in the novels, Afton uses and injects the remnant of the MCI into the Fun Times to take control of them again after he lost it from being spring-locked, turning them into a melted amalgamation of parts that listens to him. In FNAF 6, when we look at the design of Molten Freddy, it's actually extremely similar to the bad ending of FNAF 3, almost like Molten Freddy is an embodiment of the bad ending, where the souls haven't received their happiest day and are still under Afton's curse. One of Molten Freddy's voice lines is him saying, "One big happy family." And in the novels, William describes the children being inside the animatronics as a family, and that is my theory on Happiest Day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and share this video. I will see you on the flip side.